Hey, church family, I want to take a moment and just share with you briefly about the mission trip next year to Uganda that we'll be sending a team there to work with the ministry of Sozo children. And I'm not going to go over all of the details of the trip. I think most of you have seen that. We've sent out the emails, we've been announcing it. If you're not aware of the details and the dates and the cost and all of that, you can let us know. We'll be glad to get that out to you. But the main thing I want to do now is I just want to ask every one of you, would you be willing to take some time and to begin praying, Lord, is it your will that I join this team and go on this trip to Uganda next year? And so I want you to be willing to begin praying that prayer and then listening to God's response. And so I want to encourage you to do that no matter what stage of life you're in. Maybe you're a student, maybe you're still working, maybe you're retired, but just go ahead and be willing to pray that prayer because many times what happens, there's an opportunity like this and we see this opportunity, but we immediately say no without really giving it any prayerful consideration. Now, the truth is, most of you watching this will not go on this trip. I mean, we only have 15 spots, but I would love for all of us to prayerfully consider, is God calling me to go? We oftentimes we just say no because I can't do that. There's no way that I could go on a trip like that. I don't have the time. I can't afford to do that. And we never stop and pray. And so I'm just simply asking, would you be willing to give this prayerful consideration and just say, Lord, would you have me to go? And so some of you may be thinking and asking, well, why should we go? Why be involved in short-term missions? And so let me just give you a couple of reasons why. And the first reason I say is because when we go, obviously we're being obedient to the command of Christ to take the gospel to the nations. But 2 Corinthians chapter 2 says that we are the aroma of Christ. And so we take that with us when we go and in these opportunities. Some would say, I've heard this before in regard to short-term missions. Some would say, well, wouldn't it be better if we just take the amount of money that it's going to cost to send this team on this trip? Let's just send that amount of money over and imagine all the good that they could do with that amount of money. And I get that mindset. I mean, for this particular trip, the cost is between $4,000 and $5,000 so per person. So let's just say $5,000 times 15 team members, that's $75,000. Obviously, there's a lot of things that Sozo could do if we just sent $75,000 to them, and they would be very grateful for that. But what that money cannot do is that money cannot carry with it the aroma of Christ. But we are able to do that very thing. The second reason I'd say it's important for us to go and be involved in short-term missions is not so much the work that we're going to do for them, which is important. That's one of the reasons we go. We are going to share the hope that we have in Christ and minister to those in need. But it's also because of what God does in us when we go and participate in things like this. There are countless testimonies of those who have surrendered to the call of full-time missionary work because they went on a short-term mission trip and God used that experience to point them in the direction of full-time missions. That hasn't been my experience. I've gone on a few international trips and some mission trips here in the States, and I haven't felt that God was calling me to go full-time into that, but God has used these experiences to stir my heart just with a passion for missions, to support missions and to go on mission in a way that wasn't there before I had these experiences. And so it's important when we go to see what God's going to do in our life as a result of being obedient to follow his command to go to the nations. And so those are a couple of reasons of why we should go. Now, some of you may be thinking, I can't go because I can't afford it, that it's just too much cost, or I don't have the time to go. And here's what I would say to that. If you will do what I said at the beginning of the video, if you will give this prayerful consideration, and if you feel like God is leading you to go, then don't worry about those details. If God's calling you to go, God will make a way. You say, Pastor, $4,000 to $5,000? There's no way I can afford that. And that's expensive. But don't forget, we have a very wealthy Father, a wealthy Father who loves to bless and provide for his children. So don't let cost be a factor here. If you feel like God is calling you to go, God will provide. And the same thing with your schedule. I don't have the time. I don't have the days off. There's no way I can make this work. If God is calling you to go, God will work out those details. And so I'm looking forward to this experience. And I know we've got several who are planning to go as of now, and I hope others will consider joining us. So please give this prayerful consideration. We did extend the deadline because we changed the registration process, and so the deadline is November 17th for those who are a part of Farmville, and then if we still have spots available after that, we'll open that up to family and friends that may want to go, and that deadline will be December 15th. But if you decide you want to go and you don't have that information, the website where you go and register, just let us know and we can send that to you. But we would love to have you join us. And so would you please pray, God, is it your will that I go next year and serve as a part of this team to Uganda?